This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the new Sony VAIO X. This is a sub notebook. As you can see, it's crazy thin. That's the back hinge view. Here's the side view. And the front view. This is a ½ an inch thick, or thin, depending on how you want to put it. Take a look like that. So this guy is as thin as the MacBook Air, if not thinner. We'll compare that in a minute. Yet it manages to have two USB ports right here, headphone jack, that's the power jack, and on this side a pop-open Ethernet jack, and a full-size VGA port, which kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. But say one thing for Sony, they do a good combination of engineering and design. They know that you need certain ports, so there's no dongle required here. This is an 11.1 inch display. It's a 2 gigahertz notebook. The bad news is it's an Atom 2 gigahertz Z550 processor. Has 2 gigs of RAM and a 64 gig solid state drive for $12.99. For $200 more, you can get one with a 128 gig SSD and the option of getting it in kind of champagne gold color. This is the battery right here. It feels so light at 1.6 pounds, you'd think the battery wasn't even in it. Take the battery out, simply release it like so. And as you can see, it's so thin there's really no room to hide the trackpad. This is the underside of the trackpad assembly. It comes with an extended battery that's good for up to 14 hours according to Sony. In our test, it's good for 10 hours with brightness turned pretty high and Wi-Fi on. So the extended battery goes on, locks down via these lock sliders over here, and then there are these really funky thumb screws that screw the battery on here. It stays on really well. It's not like the HP Envy where you jiggle it around and it might come loose. And it's very interestingly designed. So you can see right here there's an area for airflow, and it also raises the notebook up for more ergonomic typing. So it's certainly unique looking. And this notebook with this extended battery on still weighs significantly under 3 pounds. And again, it's 1.6 without. The standard battery is good for about 3 hours on a charge. And you can see here, if you happen to have just a standard battery in and you want ergonomic typing, there are these flip-up feet over here to help raise the notebook a bit off the table. Let's take a look at the keyboard on this. It's a island-style keyboard or chiclet keyboard. As you can see, there's raised relief over here. It feels wonderful to type on. The only drawback is it's a bit small. It's supposed to be 91% a full-size keyboard, and you can see my hands on it here. I have long, thin fingers, but I can touch type on this no problem. But if you have big, meaty fingers, you might have some problems with that. The trackpad supports multi-touch. As you can see, it could be bigger given the size of the unit, but Sony probably knows their design a little bit better than we do, and there may be some reason why it couldn't be larger. It's adequate. It has 2 normal buttons with pleasant click, not too hard. And this power button is right here. There's an LED that lights up green beside it when it's on, turns orange when it's sleeping. You've got your wireless on-off switch here. And speaking of wireless, this is no netbook. This is like the Sony VAIO P. You've got everything in here. You've got Wi-Fi, you've got Bluetooth, you've got Verizon EVDO built into this, and a GPS. It comes with Microsoft Streets and Trips. Give you an idea of the size. There it is with a DVD. And before we boot it up, we'll do a few more physical comparisons. Here it is with the EPC 1005HA that we recently reviewed. It's a 10-inch netbook. Size here, it's not too amazing. But obviously, this guy weighs 3 pounds, almost twice as much. And in terms of thickness, there's absolutely no comparison. The Sony is so much thinner. Now we'll compare it to the Sony VAIO Z series. The Z itself is a very thin and light notebook. It weighs 3.3 pounds. It's a 13-inch display. It has a full Intel P8600 processor in it and an optical drive built in. The footprint here, 11 versus 13 inches, something like the VAIO TT versus the VAIO Z. But again, as you look at it from the side, they're very different in that respect. This is like an anorexic TT, basically. There is no built-in optical drive, unlike the discontinued VAIO TT. There's no room for it in the device. And comparing it to the MacBook Air, again, MacBook Air is 13-inch, one of the thinnest computers on the market, but it too weighs about twice as much. MacBook Air and this guy are about the same thickness, with the MacBook Air being thinner at the very front edge where it tapers. Next we'll take a look at the performance for the 2 gigahertz Atom, which I didn't expect much of, honestly, but it's quite decent for playing Hulu and YouTube, and totally fine with the included Windows 7 Home Edition and working with Office documents, surfing the web, and the like. Now we'll take a look at YouTube and Hulu playback. Again, this comes with Windows 7 Home Edition, 2 gigahertz Atom processor. I know, especially for the price, it would have been nice if the folks at Sony could have given us a ULV, maybe even dual-core processor, but given the heat and the size constraints, I don't think that that was possible. So here we are in standard quality on YouTube, and now we'll switch to high quality. Plays just fine. Now what happens if we go to full screen? Got some frame drops there in full screen high quality, but it's pretty good, really. Certainly watchable. Now here we are watching Hulu in standard quality. I'm using Google's Chrome browser right now. Looks pretty good. Lip sync is not quite perfect though. Let's try this in high res. There are frame drops here. Quality isn't all that much different, really, between high quality and standard quality. So that's the Sony VAIO X. Again, this is the 64 gig SSD version that sells for $12.99. It should be available around November 20th, 2009. Visit Mobile Tech Review to read our full review.